Hi, it's me again. Today is Sunday the 6th of January, and yes, I know I did only just post a video yesterday. But as promised in that video from yesterday, I have some other books here that I would like to do a haul on. And so yeah, I've got 4 more books to do a haul on today. That came, these 3 came with, I did a review yesterday on my last video about this one, the Ruth Park's Harp in the South novels. So as you may remember, in my last video I did a review on this one. That one with these other 4 came as a result of a Dimmicks gift card that was given to me for Christmas. So my boyfriend gave me that gift card in addition to this actual copy of George Orwell's 1984. So those 2 you can, if you want to check out the reviews for those 2, you can check out my most recent video dated yesterday entitled Happy New Year. So you can check that out. Now these other 4, yeah. The first one is a Popular Penguins copy. So it's got those orange covers, anyway. And it is the Popular Penguins edition of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. Kesey, whatever. I don't know how to pronounce it, but anyway. I think it's Kesey. Anyway. So you may be familiar with the film of the same name. This is the book that it was based on. Ken Kesey's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest captured the radical anti-establishment mood of the 60s in America. Tyrannical Nurse Ratched rules her psychiatric ward with an iron fist and a penchant for electric shock therapy. So when the boisterous McMurphy arrives, we all know McMurphy, intent on disruption and showing the other patients a good time, a titanic battle of wills emerges. Kesey explores the shadowy boundaries between conformity and individuality, sanity and madness with devastating effect. That should be an interesting read. I did see the movie, albeit only once, quite a few years ago. But I did find it quite interesting to watch. Now, the second book, again a Popular Penguins edition, of In the Winter Dark by Tim Winton. Now, Tim Winton is an Australian author. Many Australian readers would be familiar with his work. Here we go. Night falls. In a lovely valley called the Sink, 4 people prepare for a quiet evening. Then, in his orchard, Murray Jacob sees a moving shadow. Across the swamp, his neighbour Ronnie watches her lover leave and feels her baby roll inside her. And on the veranda of the Stubbs' house, a small dog is torn screaming from its leash by something unseen. Nothing will ever be the same again. Ooh. So that should also be told. I've heard good things about this particular author, so I'm excited to have a read of that one. And then I'm almost finished with 1984 by George Orwell, so I'm excited to read this next book, the Popular Penguins edition of George Orwell's Keep the Aspidistra Flying. So this should be interesting to read as well. Gordon Comstock loathes dull middle-class respectability and worship of money. He gives up a good job, quote-unquote, in advertising to work part-time in a bookshop, giving him more time to write. Interesting. But he slides instead into a self-induced poverty that destroys his creativity and his spirit. Through the character of Comstock, George Orwell reveals his own disaffection with the society he himself once renounced. Keep the aspidistra. Now, those of you who don't know, an aspidistra is a houseplant. So, yes, it's a common houseplant with broad foliage that some might say might look a bit vaguely like airplane wings, but I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, anyway. And this fourth book, I didn't quite realise it until I actually physically got it. But it comes with additional material in the book. So it says educational edition with revised and updated study notes. So I'm assuming this particular edition of this book was originally meant as sometimes you see in a lot of high schools, in high school English classes, the whole class will be set an assignment where they have to read a novel and then do a project on it. I had to do that in grade 10. My English class in grade 10 in high school, we did our project on To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. And I've read that book at least twice, so I love that book. But anyway, but I think this particular edition of this particular book was intended along similar lines, published specifically for high school students who are studying it as part of an English course. But I didn't realise that until I actually physically got it. But I'm still going to keep it and read it anyway, because I've been meaning to read this book for quite a while now. And it is William Golding's Lord of the Flies, educational edition with revised and updated study notes. And it's about, yay thick. So, cover illustration by Amy Baxter, age 15, winner of the Lord of the Flies cover competition for 13 to 16-year-olds, run in association with Guardian Children's Books. Interesting. Now, those of you who are not familiar with Lord of the Flies, a plane crashes on a desert island, and the only survivors, a group of schoolboys, assemble on the beach and wait to be rescued. By day, they inhabit a land of bright, fantastic birds and dark blue seas, but at night, their dreams are haunted by the image of a terrifying beast. As the boys' delicate sense of order fades, so their childish dreams are transformed into something more primitive, and their behaviour starts to take on a murderous, savage significance. First published in 1954, the year of my mother's first birthday, Lord of the Flies is one of the most celebrated and widely read modern classics. Now fully revised and updated, this educational edition includes chapter summaries, comprehension questions, discussion points, classroom activities, a biographical profile of William Golding, the author, historical context relevant to the novel, and an essay on Lord of the Flies by Golding entitled Fable. Aimed at students at key stages 3 and 4, it also includes a section for advanced or A-level students. So this is probably, I think, English for English students. The educational edition encourages original and independent thinking while guiding the students through the text, ideal for use in the classroom and at home. So, okay. I didn't realise that until I actually got it, but I'm going to keep it and I'm going to read it anyway. So I thought, okay, that's not going to stop me from enjoying it. I don't think. Actually, it might help me to enjoy it more. So, those are the additional books that I got as part of my Christmas present from my lovely boyfriend. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books that he gave me. So I'm going to enjoy that with my summer reading taken care of, in addition to my Leanne Moriarty collection that I've got going. I'm still going on that. I've been a bit lax with that of late, but Yes, I'm a bit late, but I'm still going with 1984. I'm coming close to finishing it actually. I'm about that way. See, that's the back of it, and that's the back of the 1984. Lovely image of George Orwell on the back. And there's the front, and that's how far I'm into it. I'm almost finished. So, like I said in my last video, 1984 is a bit sort of heavy going at times, but I do believe it is worth a read. I do believe it is worth um, picking up and having a go at, because I think, I I've always enjoyed reading, and because when I was a child, when I was a small child, when I was a little boy, my my mum used to always she used to always read, and I used to always see her with and her nose in a book sometimes, and she used to always tell my brother and I, my brother who's a year younger than me, um, he him and I we would mum would put us to bed, and we she'd tell us the bedtime stories, and she'd just make them up in her head. Because and I asked her once, what? How do you come up with all these wonderful, fantastic stories? And she goes, oh, just because I read a lot. I just read a lot. I'm like, okay. And so of course, when I started school, when I started primary school, I'm like, when I started to learn to read as a child, I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was just like, oh my god, I can read. And well, especially in the beginning, like the early years of primary school, like grades 1, 2, 3, I was my main focus to learn how to read and write. That was my big thing. I really, really, really wanted to learn how to read and write as a child, and that was my focus. So then, of course, as I grew into the older years of primary school and into high school, um, it became my favourite thing to do, just to read, read. I remember in primary school, I think it was like grade 2 or 3 or something. I think it was grade two. Grade two. The first ever book that I borrowed from the school's library was Harry McClary from Donaldson's Dairy. It was the first ever book that I ever borrowed from the library. And I thought it was fantastic. Here's me all grown up borrowing a book from the library. I felt all grown up. And then I remember one of the earliest books that I ever read was Bushfire Moon. I forget the name of the author, but it was Bushfire Moon. They made a movie out of it starring D. Wallace Stone. Coincidentally enough. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. And always borrowing books. Always borrowing books, reading. And then when I was in high school, I read voraciously. Voraciously, I read. To the point where there was at one point, I had 6 books from the school library borrowed at once, and I was reading a lot of them all at once. So I'm like, oh, I love this. This is nice. So, but my favourite thing to do is go to visit bookstores, save up money and visit bookstores. Local bookstore, and just sort of rummage around in the bookstore and pick up something that I'd like and just sort of take it up and read. And inevitably, if I was to go to the bookstore and buy a book, I'd be out at the bus stop, barely get to the bus stop before I'd start reading it. Especially if I would always go to this one particular bookstore that would give you those free little flimsy bookmarks, like a free promotional bookmark with your purchase. And so inevitably, if I went to the bookstore, I would go and sort of buy my book or whatever, and then sort of go back out to the bus stop. And before I would barely sit down at the bus stop before I'd get it out, open it, and start reading it. And invariably I'd have at least the first couple of chapters read before the bus gets up, before the bus gets here, before the bus arrives. That's how much I just loved reading. To the point where even today, where I order books from Booktopia and have them sent out, online books, and I open the package, look at all my books, see what I bought, and I just, okay, which one I'm going to start reading first? Pick one, and then I'll just immediately start reading. Love it. So, and invariably I would have to set myself a minimum target of how much I want to read every day, at least 2 or 3 chapters every day. I want to try to read, and I set myself a couple of hours every afternoon, and I love it. I absolutely love reading. It's my favourite thing in all the world to do. Just lying in bed, reading quietly, on a nice day, sort of reading, and a cup of tea. So yeah. Anyway, I suppose I just wanted to do that. These are the books that I want to read, and I can't wait to read One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That's going to be interesting. Nurse Ratchet and everything. It's even got illustrations in it too, which is not very common for these popular Penguin editions. This one's got illustrations in it. Oh, like little sketch drawings of like people and things. So yeah, that's interesting. Anyway, I think that's it for now. Today is January 6th, the Feast of the Epiphany, for those of you who are of the religious inclination. 3 days from now it will be my birthday. So I am off to prepare for that. Getting old, I'll be 36. So anyway, live with passion.